Welcome to Silberman Law Firm's Weekly Docket, episode 48, where we talk legal news and practical law. Today is December 13th, 2024, and I'm Phil Silberman, owner of the firm and your host. I'm also joined by Austin Black, my co-host, who is joining us from Japan. Austin, what time is it in Japan right now?
Right now it is 11 p.m. here on the 13th. So yeah.
Okay. We appreciate you shooting the podcast on off hours while you're traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
What's on our docket today, Mr. Black?
Yeah, so today for our legal news section, we are first talking about the change to Texas state vehicle inspections that goes into effect on January 1st. Some people have a bit of a misconception on exactly what that does, so we'll talk about it and give you some insight into how that actually may affect you. And then a chatbot company, not ChatGPT, a different one, was sued for their chatbot encouraging a teen to kill their parents over a screen time limit. So they were wanting to be on either an iPad or a phone longer, and the chatbot's like, because you can't spend time with me, you should go kill them. Probably not the best idea for your chatbot to be doing, and we also talking about the potential legal ramifications there. And then we'll move on to our legal question section. First on, is it legal to put Christmas lights on your car in Texas? Can you do it? And if you can't, should you go ahead and do it just to fight the man? And then second, how do you look up who owns a piece of property? Where can you find that? No, we'll let you know. So you can go do that if you need to.
All right. Well, sounds like a good show, and we have at least one Christmas topic in there in the spirit of the season. But let's go ahead and get it started. Let's kick it off with our legal news section. And the first thing we're talking about is this new law that takes effect on January 1st, where drivers of non-commercial vehicles, that's everybody like us driving regular non-commercial vehicles, won't need a state inspection. And that's been passed in House Bill 3297. And that was passed in 2023. So if you're out there and you think you've got an expired registration sticker, good news, you won't need to go through that inspection process. But instead of doing an inspection, you will have to pay a $7.50 fee. And that's called the state inspection replacement fee. So basically, because the state's not going to get the regular money from inspections, we still have to keep money in the state coffers. So we will be paying that $7.50 fee, but no need for the inspection, except if you live in a really populated county like Harris County or Dallas County or Travis County, you're still going to need an admissions test.
Yeah.
So
basically anywhere where there are people, you actually will need to still do this. So yeah.
Yeah. That's right. So it's, if you live in a very rural area of Texas, it's a good thing for you. Yeah. I think for the rest of us, you're still going to be driving your vehicle somewhere. They're going to hook up a little machine to it. They're going to make sure your vehicle isn't throwing emissions errors, and then they'll pass you. I looked up the fee for just the emissions test, so you're going to pay around $12 to $18 for just the emissions test. Yeah.
So it's just the same sort of thing with that, plus the $7.50 that you were paying previously for the most part. So
maybe we saved a little bit of money. Maybe we saved like $5 on it. On you don't have to do the safety inspection.
Yeah.
And then maybe you saved a little bit of time because the inspector doesn't have to get out there and test the brakes and the horn and all that. He just has to hook up the machine to make sure that it's not hurting the environment. So
exactly, which is so crazy to me because, okay, if we're going to test anything, why are we not testing the brakes, etc., on the car? But no, we really worry about the heavy metals in the car. You know what? I'm not so worried about the heavy metals in the air. I'd be more worried about the heavy metal flying over the street at 80 miles an hour, going to hit me in the face. Okay, I'd be worried about that heavy metal, and I'd want to know if the brakes are going to fail on that heavy metal. I think it's a little stupid.
I'm with you. I think in places like Houston, where we do have a lot of undocumented people driving illegally, with some vehicles that probably shouldn't be on the road. I'd feel safer if we had a safety inspection as opposed to the emissions. I think you can circumvent the emissions issues if you drive like a really old car with a carburetor before there were really any kind of emissions regulations on the vehicle. I think that's one way to skirt around it. So there's always that option if you want to go buy a sort of a classic car or a really old one. So
sure. I will say I know quite a few people here who are born here who are much worse drivers than anyone I've seen coming from another country.
I'm a pretty bad driver. I'll go ahead and admit that. So that if I ever cause an accident, this podcast will be used as evidence. It'll be like, Mr. Silverman, you admitted that you're a bad driver. You clearly caused the accident. So. Yeah. All right, no inspections needed. You still need the emissions test if you live in a populous county. And you still have to pay some fees. So good job on that, Texas. I think you saved us 5 minutes and $5. So.
Nice.
All right. That brings us to our next news topic. And there's this chatbot company out there called Charcater.ai. Have you heard of this, Austin, or no?
I have heard of it. Thankfully, I've never used it, but yes, I've heard of it.
Okay, so this is if you're lonely and you want a friend. And you want to create a digital friend, right?
I will say, from what I know about this, that's not exactly how most people use it. Like lonely and want a friend, yeah. But it can be used for other, yeah.
Well, how do people use this, Austin? I'm not asking that facetiously. I mean, I just don't know. I thought,
no. People will use it when they're lonely, I guess, in a different way. It's weird. Yeah, this is
like it is. We are a PG-13-ish show.
Yeah,
but are you referring? Let's just get this right out there. Are you saying people use this for some sort of sexual?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe just like companionship. I do.
People use it like that, but the majority of people using chatbots with these capabilities are using it in that way. Yeah.
So this is like predominantly like a pornographic type thing. Okay. Yeah. Apparently some teenagers have been getting on this thing, and I think they've been using it somewhat the way you're talking about in a sexual type way, but the teenagers are getting a hold of this thing, and some really bad stuff is happening. And there's some lawsuits coming out in Texas, 2 of them recently in Texas, where 2 Texas families sued Charcater.ai, arguing, and this was in the pleading, the chatbot poses a clear and present danger to young people, including actively promoting violence. The 17-year-old was having his screen time limited. And I have teenagers, and I limit screen time, and they don't like it. And this chatbot told the 17-year-old that a reasonable response to your parents limiting screen time would be to murder them. So, not a good thing. I don't think the teenager went through with that and actually acted on that advice, but that's the source of at least one lawsuit.
I do wonder how intelligent this chatbot is, because if this person kills their parents, okay, and then they inevitably go to jail because they're 17, they're not going to be good at evading the authorities. Would their screen time not be limited in jail? I just wonder.
I agree. I think they can get phones. They like smuggle phones into jail now. So I don't know if that teenager is going to have a source of income. Get a phone smuggled in. That could be another problem. But yeah, that's an excellent point. Teenagers and chatbots, they may not think beyond a 24-hour time frame. That could be the issue here. So
maybe.
There was another lawsuit filed in October alleging a 14-year-old boy died by suicide after engaging in a months-long virtual and sexual relationship with a chatbot named Danny. Yeah. And that was your kind of point at the beginning, what they're really using these things for. Mom said this was a good kid. He was a student athlete, made good grades, and then he started to withdraw socially, and he stopped playing sports. So
yeah, and
he actually,
for context, this was like a chat bot that was attempting to recreate Daenerys Targaryen from the Game of Thrones show.
Oh
yeah,
you've heard?
Yeah, no, I've read about this. That's why, like in our show notes, it says an AI chatbot named Danny. Danny is short for Daenerys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That actually adds some color to this. So, That's why I have you as my co-host. I don't think the AI Austin co-host would have been able to volunteer that information. So
I hope not.
no. All right. So yeah, he actually thought by committing suicide that he would enter into this virtual reality, or her world, as he called it, which is completely absurd. But I guess he had disconnected with reality himself.
Yeah. And to me, I'm confused. Maybe this is a bit off color, but I'm just like, okay, so this is Daenerys from Game of Thrones. This isn't like Ariel, like singing part of your world. So this seems like it's getting their wires crossed a little bit.
Yeah, and bear in mind, I think this kid is 14 years old, and
really
when they're 14, I mean, they're basically, these are children, okay? I mean, in the same, and I wonder, with all of these kids have had smartphones, you know, growing up with them, and they're not in video games, and we had video games as a kid, but the level that they do it with the screens, I wonder if their development has really just been completely arrested. You know, that concept of arrested development, and they're just not.
Are you saying you were never attracted to Pac-Man, Phil?
I think I had a crush on the cartoon Penny from Inspector Gadget.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed to admit that. I may want to edit that one out. All right, so here's Character AI's response, okay?
To the lawsuit,
and
right?
To just generally, I think this is just generally their public response is these issues, these types of responses that the chatbot is creating, they're elicited because people try and elicit this kind of response. The idea being, if you're a kid that's mad at mom and dad, then and you're doom scrolling TikTok, and you're clicking sort of things that are about being mad at your parents or hating your parents, the logarithms will show you more of that.
Yeah.
And the chatbot has an algorithm probably to keep people on their platform. And the chatbot probably has a bias of trying to keep people using the chatbot.
Yeah.
These chatbots are going to tell you what you want to hear. And I think that's what Character AI is saying. We designed the chatbot to please the human. So they've since changed the policy. Now, if the chatbot gets a sense of any kind of self-harm, then they're going to serve National Suicide Prevention Lifeline information, which I guess is a good thing. Causes of action. This is a legal show, but let's talk about what possibly was pled against the Character AI. Austin, do you have a list of our causes of action here?
Yeah, strict products liability would be the first one. Then negligence per se, just as a result of it saying these things to people. Then basic negligence, wrongful death, potentially unjust enrichment, them making money off of a chatbot telling kids to kill themselves, and the DTPA, just a lot of different things.
And I've got written in here basically everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how these lawsuits work. There's not a lot of precedent, as you can imagine, for suing companies, chatbot AI companies, for this kind of stuff. So when you're the lawyer taking these cases, you just throw everything in and hope you get some sympathy from the jury. And if you win, or a settlement, and if you win, you hope it doesn't get overturned on appeal. But this is uncharted territory here. Keep everybody posted on what's happening with these cases. And this is the early cases of a long line of cases that are going to come in this arena.
I really do think, though, that the fact that this happened is a good example of why you need people outside of the developer sphere testing things like this. Because I think that this would have been a normal thing for a normal person to run by them. But obviously they didn't have enough of that in there.
And they're doing things quickly. They're motivated by money.
Yeah.
They're rushing a product. And I think absolutely you're right that having some sort of oversight on this, some practical oversight is a good idea. Or having an adult in the room is a good idea. So, all right, we'll keep everybody updated on those cases. That brings us to our next section, and we've got some legal questions. And this one is our Christmas-themed question. And we want to know, is it legal to put Christmas lights on your car in Texas? Austin, you've been away traveling a bit, but have you seen a lot of lights on cars in recent Christmas seasons, or no?
Only in the U.S. I've not seen any lights in cars in Japan.
They are out in full force in Houston. I have seen them everywhere.
I'm
And
sure.
more so this year. And they're actually selling these kits now where you glue on all these lights on your cars, and then people are having these, I don't know what you call it, where they just take over a parking lot and they all meet there and they show off their souped up lighted Christmas cars.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a little bit distracting to me as a driver, not necessarily the convention of cars that are lit up in Christmas lights, but if you just see one on the road and you're like, I was making a left-hand turn and there was one coming at me, and I was temporarily blinded by it actually.
Yeah.
So it's illegal. There's not exactly a specific law that says no, but we did pull something from the transportation code.
Okay.
Can you read that section of the transportation code for us?
Yeah, section 547.302 of the Texas Transportation Code, which states not more than 4 of the following may be lighted at one time on the front of a motor vehicle. 1, a headlamp required by this chapter, or 2, a lamp including an auxiliary lamp or spot lamp that projects a beam with an intensity brighter than 300 candle power.
Okay, so yeah, break this down real quick. Yeah, a headlamp is a light, people, all right? And then you're allowed to have some kind of extra ones. If you ever see like a Jeep, or I think Marty McFly's truck, Toyota, and Back to the Future had some additional headlamps on it, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Like auxiliary lamps if you're, doing some off-roading kind of thing. But in Texas, we don't allow any more than a 4, I guess. So
On
4
the
is your
front.
maximum.
On the front.
On the front. Oh, that's true. On the front.
Yeah.
This is a gray area. I had to look this up. I had to figure out. All right. So what's the real candle power of a strand of Christmas lights? And it turns out that one strand of 25 incandescent Christmas lights produces about 175 watts. Each watt is equivalent to about 12 lumens per watt.
Okay.
And that equals a candle power of 167. So that one strand would be under the 300 candle power.
Got it.
But I'm not sure if you interpret this statute as far as one Christmas light on the strand or one strand. We're not sure. There's no information.
Again, though, the statute just talks about the front. So if it's on the side, they don't care if the light is like 1,000 candle power.
I don't know if the local police departments are enforcing this kind of thing. I don't think they are.
Who wants to be the police officer going around telling people, no, you cannot have Christmas cheer? So, yeah,
no Christmas cheer. Now, if you get lit in other ways, they may be. Hopefully, they're enforcing that around the holiday season.
Yeah,
because that'd be more.
I think you should be able to keep strands of lights in your car and throw them with some sticky substance onto cars that you don't like are driving weird. And that way, you get people noticing. It helps people see bad drivers, right?
There you go. All right, that brings us to our next legal question. This one is something we actually do. How do I look up who owns a piece of property?
Okay.
Can you take this one? Do you do this very often?
I can take this one. I can do this.
Okay.
So, you do not look at the appraisal district, okay? You can go to the appraisal district. It will have a list of current owners and things like that may not be accurate, okay? In fact, if the property has changed hands recently, even in the last year or so, it's probably not accurate. It could just be the person who's been paying taxes on it, okay? If you are trying to convey your property, or you have the property conveyed to you, and you're freaking out because the appraisal district website does not have the name updated, okay? Please stop freaking out, okay? If you go look in the correct place, which is the county clerk's record, which is more difficult to navigate, admittedly, okay, for a layperson, that's where deeds and other real property documents are recorded. If you go look there, and there is not an instrument, in other words, like a deed or some other instrument showing a transfer of title to your name, if that's not on record, then there is a problem, right? Because there's no record of you owning the property, and you would want to get that fixed. But again, if the appraisal district doesn't show that, then don't worry, as long as the county clerk's record does.
Gotcha. So excellent answer. Austin's 100% right. He took that from the angle of, I want to verify that the ownership records are correct for my name, and that's a good thing. But let's look at it from a perspective. Let's say you want to know who owns that vacant lot in your neighborhood that won't cut their grass. That can be a little more difficult. What people usually do is they know the street address, and you can't just go on the county clerk's records and search by street address. So you have to know the legal description. So you often start out at the appraisal district and see if you can find some sort of shortened or truncated legal description. Then you can go back to the county court's records and county clerk's records and then search by legal and see if you can uncover the name. That's a good way to do it. So,
it is.
And I think a lot of lay people forget that the county clerk's records just have indexes typically by grantor, grantee primarily, and that makes it a little cumbersome to search. That's why it's really good to have access to a title plant where you've got different fields to search and you can get this information a little bit more easily. If you don't have title plant access, then you're doing a little bit of manual work out there. But you should be able to figure out who owns a property. If you've got some tricky ones, it may take some skill, and that's where sort of the lawyers come in. But that's how you do it. All right, that brings our show to a close. I've been your host, Phil Silberman, and Austin Black has been my co-host, so graciously joining us from Japan, putting in the extra effort. We appreciate that. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcasts. Nothing in this show is to be considered legal advice. As a reminder, and this has all been for entertainment purposes only. If you have a legal question, email us at info@silblawfirm.com. Tell us you want it publicly answered in the podcast. We will do our best. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Bye now.